But
you know what is remarkably incredible is that remember early in the season when everybody was extremely excited about Nick Chubb, and we were like, this guy's probably going to end up between 15 to 17 points per game. And everybody's like, you morons.
I got DMs for that, I think.
Nick Chubb is currently the RB at 16.4 points per game. He is not even a full point per game higher, and he is one spot higher in points per game than James Conner, the RB10, and Leonard Fournette, the RB11. It is entirely conceivable that by the end of this season, James Conner and Leonard Fournette finish ahead of Nick Chubb. Incredible.
Yeah, so Leonard Fournette with 11 touchdowns.
Tony Pollard ahead of all of them, by the way.
Pardon me. Nick Chubb with 11 touchdowns.
So you're aware that Tony Pollard is ahead of all of them. Yeah.
No, of course, Tony Pollard. Nick Chubb with 11 touchdowns in the first, 9 games of the year? 1 touchdown since then in the last 6. I wonder if there was a chance that running hot on touchdowns would ever not continue into the future. If there was anything projectable or unprojectable about an outsized touchdown rate. Just predictable.
We should talk about Nick Chubb quickly because
what's he talking about other than victory lap? It's just a victory lap and move on. There's nothing else.
No,
he's what he is.
No, we need to talk about Nick Chubb because many Cleveland Browns fans have decided that the reason why they're not winning football games is because Kevin Stefanski is being held at gunpoint by his analytical overlord, Paul DePodesta, Jonah Hill from Moneyball. That's literally true. That is.
Let's just call him Jonah Hill from now on.
Okay, so Jonah Hill is a gun to Kevin Stefanski's head. He says you have to run these plays. You have to pass every single play, and you're allowed to run, but when you do run, you can only run to set up play action passing. You can't just run for the sake of running. Because 4-yard runs have no value. You need to run for 7 yards to have value. You need to try and get 13-yard passes. And people are outraged at this notion because they think that the way that the Cleveland Browns will win is by running Nick Chubb as much as possible, because that's how they won so many games previously, was running Nick Chubb all the time on 5 and 11 teams. Bucky Brooks, I imagine, agrees. Bucky Brooks, I imagine, thinks that Cleveland could be a tough football team if they ran Nick Chubb more. I guess my question is just, how is it that we're still having these debates? Like, how are we still having these ridiculous debates about running the football not enough, and just using counting stats of rushing attempts, not caring about score facts, thinking that running the ball is the primary path to winning in the NFL? Weirdly injecting toughness into things. Why is this life? Why have we not moved past this?
I think it's pretty clear that some people believe in facts and some people believe in alternative facts. And there was a tweet today, literally today, that was hilarious. It's about this article from Grossi, that meat reporter or whatever he is. This guy tweets about it, and he's like, Paul DeBest has pretty much convinced owner Jimmy Haslam the only way to build a Super Bowl team is by consistently throwing for explosive, air quotes, plays. It's real quotes in the quote, though.
Right.
In the passing game, apparently, no matter the weather conditions, blah, 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 Stefanski's job is safe because he's following DePodesta's rules. Haslam's so into the analytics that the head coaches try to please him by throwing the ball and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, the whole thing here is basically that the Browns are running the ball, and that's why they're not losing. They're not tough enough. They're throwing the ball, not running the ball. That's why they're losing, which is interesting. Totally interesting philosophy to say such things when you could literally go to Google. Everybody has access to Google if you have access to the internet. If you're listening to the podcast, you probably have access to Google. And if you were to Google things like who has the most pass attempts in the NFL this year, you would see that the Cleveland Browns do not, which is interesting because they're being forced to by Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill is forcing them. And yet, somehow, they have managed to evade this force. And they're actually 20th in total pass attempts, which means they're not even in the top half of the freaking league.
And they're 25th in early down pass rate.
But I was told, I quote you to this.
That's because they're only running to set up play action passing. Even though Kevin Stefanski is quoted mentioning Ben Baldwin's study on there not being a relationship between establishing the run and play action efficiency. So why are they running at all? This whole thing really doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. And then, like, if you go further beyond, like, early down pass rate, or did you say early down pass rate or pass rate over expected?
I said early down pass rate, but I imagine pass rate over expected tells a fairly similar story.
Interestingly enough, pass rate over expected is supposed to tell you how many passes they throw over the expectation based on down and distance, based on the score, based on field position, etc. Normally, that's supposed to be pass rate over expected.
Yeah.
Except for in the case of the Browns, where Jonah Hill, even though holding them at gunpoint, is still allowing them somehow to pass for a negative pass rate over expected, which means it's in fact not over expected. It's a pass rate under expected by 6%, which is like, you could figure all this out for yourself. You don't need any special tool. You don't need to be charting the freaking game. You can literally just go to Google and type in pass rate over expected or early down pass rate or total freaking pass attempts to see that the Browns' problem is not that they are passing too much. That is clearly not the problem. It's ridiculous.
Their problem is mostly that their defense has been bad. Like, they actually had a pretty functional offense with Jacoby Brissett. Deshaun Watson has been bad since he got there. I imagine that he will eventually not be bad. But, like, their season was realistically sunk before Deshaun Watson ever came there. And Jacoby Brissett was operating a perfectly successful passing offense. And their defense was not good. If anything, the Browns are not tough because they can't stop the run, not because they don't run.
So the like crowning moment of all this for me was that I quoted the guy who quoted the article, which is fine. Like, whatever, it's fine. You're allowed to quote people to tell them that they're wrong. So I did that. And then he told me that I was in fact wrong and was missing the context of the situation because in fact what was happening was the Browns had been losing in like 12 of 13 second halves. Thus, I am wrong. And I was quite miffed at this assertion that I was wrong, that they were in fact not passing enough because they were losing in the second half. And he wants to tell me that I don't understand context of football. I just cannot even. It's ridiculous. Like, the fact that someone is arguing stats without even understanding stats should probably tell you everything you need to know about their argument right there. You don't need to know anything else. You know that everything they're saying doesn't have any foundation in reality, and you can just move on. So